Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, and welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast.
You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Better dig deep and put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Save us all. Ooh, they're gonna burn it down. Save us all before they burn it down.
You know, when I think about the oath that we take as soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that we take that obligation freely without any purpose of evasion, mental reservation, so help me God. I recall when I was still finishing up my contractor tour in Afghanistan, Kandahar, Afghanistan, where I was working to train, mentor, advise the 205th Corps of the Afghan National Army. I had started that position in the summer of 2005, but it was coming towards an end there in November, December of 2007. And the reason why it was coming to an end was because so many people had asked me, and it was laid upon my heart to run for Congress down in South Florida, 22nd Congressional District. That district was held by a Republican, E. Clay Shaw, and it had been lost in the 2006, I'd say, political meltdown, everything that was about the Iraq War and what have you. And so people came to me because it was a swing district, R+1, maybe just straight even. And they really felt that there was an opportunity to win it back. And so in my last 6 months there in Afghanistan on that tour, first and foremost, you had to make sure you stayed alive and came back home to your wife and daughters. But I just wanted to read and study up and soak in all the knowledge that I could on the critical issues facing the United States of America, being a national security issue, foreign policy issues, economic issues. Of course, we knew that we were facing this thing called the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, which ended up being quite oxymoronic in its title. It did not protect patients, and it was not affordable. And so when I got back to the United States of America, and like I said, in late November, early December of 2007, I started laying things out and, thinking about the critical things that I need to do because, Florida had a late primary, which is a good thing. And then we move on from there. It ended up I did not have to worry about a primary. I was the Republican nominee. And so I went up to Washington, D.C. to speak with the people there for the National Republican Congressional Conference. These were the folks that were responsible for helping Republican candidates out there win House seats. And so I went up there all, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, if you want to call it. And, here's a guy, 22 years, retired from the United States Army, just got back from 2.5 years as a civilian advisor and mentor to the Afghan Army. And now I wanted to continue my service to the United States of America in running for Congress. And as I sat down with one of the executive directors or whoever for the NRCC, National Republican Congressional Committee, the very first thing he asked me was, how much money are you going to front in your campaign? Okay. I served 22 years in the United States military. I'm not a trust fund baby. I didn't come from a rich family. I came from a family who also served in the military. Dad, World War II, dad, older brother in Vietnam. I just got back from 2.5 years in Afghanistan, working to train their army so that maybe we could extricate more of our troops out and turn the mission over to them, especially down in southern Afghanistan, the hotbed of the Taliban. And the question was still, how much money are you going to put forward yourself? it wasn't about, wow, thank you for wanting to continue your service. I think this is a district that will be critical for us to win again, especially in a 2008 cycle, which ended up having Barack Obama run for president. Nope, none of that. So basically, we were told, thank you for your interest, but there was no support coming. So in that short period of about, February, March to November of 2008, we scrubbed together, raised $583,000, took on an incumbent who had been in the state House of Florida, state Senate of Florida, very far left Democrat. He had some 3 to 4 million in his war chest. But boy, I got to tell you, we had one debate and we smoked it. We smoked it so bad that we could hear him yelling at his staff in the back about, why didn't you tell me that this guy understood these issues? And so we were encouraged. And it ended up that even in the 2008 Obama wave election cycle, if you want to call it that, we garnered 45.3%. Never been in politics, just gotten back from a combat zone, but yet we had name recognition and we got out and we worked hard in Florida's Congressional District 22, which went along the southeastern coast of Florida from Broward County up to Palm Beach County. And people encouraged me to come back and run again in 2010. And as you know, in 2010, that was that incredible wave where Barack Obama, in his first midterm election cycle, lost 63 congressional seats. I think that was the largest turnover since the World War II time period. And I was fortunate to be one of those. And we ended up flipping it, and we won with a little over 54% of the vote. And the difference also was that we went from just being a guy that had 583,000 to a guy that had 8 million. We had become the top fundraising challenger candidate in that election cycle because we just talked about the issues, talked about our principles and values, talked about the Constitution and the oath to support and defend it. But upon getting up to Washington, D.C., I made a promise not just to myself but all those other veterans who would come after me, that we would create an organization, a leadership pack called the Guardian Fund, because our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines are the guardians of the Republic. As a matter of fact, when I came out of Congress, that was the title of the book that I wrote. But I wanted to make sure that what we saw or what happened with me did not happen to any other young man or young woman who wanted to run, and they were military or minority conservative. And the Guardian Fund is now celebrating its 10th anniversary, 10 years of the Guardian Fund being out there as a leadership pack. An incredible amount of former military and minority conservatives that have been elected to the United States House of Representatives and Senate. And that's what we are going to discuss tonight, is that we find more and more members of the United States military who are stepping up, former members who are stepping up to run for elected office. And I'm not just talking about at the federal government level. I'm talking about the state level, at the local level. You know what I always say, the most important election in the United States of America School Board, because we need those men and women and city councils, state house, being it the state house or state senate, but state legislatures. We need those men and women in gubernatorial seats. We need those men and women all across the entire spectrum. Men and women who have been willing to make the last full measure of devotion for this great nation. Because I remember back 50 years ago or so, and I kind of looked up and read some of this, the number of men and women who were serving up there on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., who had served in the United States military as well, was over 70%. Today, That number is about 18, 19%. If you don't think that that has a big difference in the direction that we see our federal government going. See, one of the things that really did chap my shorts a little bit was that in the military, you don't go home until the mission is accomplished, the mission is complete, and you understand what the mission is. You understand what your task and purpose is, your what and your why. I don't see that being the case now. I see these problems continue to perpetuate itself, and this is a bipartisan thing. And I see people more so align with their own self-interests or special interests or political interests than the interests of the people that they supposedly are called to serve. And let me stress that, just like it says in the Gospel of Mark, that the Son of Man came to serve and not to be served. It seems that people have that kind of backwards right now in elected offices. And so we need to seek out more men and women, quality men and women. Because one of the things that I saw was that even the Democrats tried to go out and recruit military members to toe their party line. Seth Moulton up in Massachusetts was a big proponent of this. But we want to get people that understand their oath to the Constitution, not an oath to a political party or an ideology that is antithetical to the longest running constitutional republic that the world has ever known. Because if we don't, then I think that we have to be concerned about the future. I mean, when someone is just excuse the reference, but a bartender from the Bronx who has a degree in economics, but does not understand economics, free market economic systems, and pushes the Green New Deal. And oh, by the way, if you had not been paying attention, the economy in Sri Lanka just collapsed because of Green New Deal globalist agendas. We don't want to see that happen here in the United States of America. But yet, we're already seeing high commodity prices, high energy prices heading down that same path. But men and women who have traveled the globe, who have been staring enemies in the eye, they're not afraid to stand up and say and do what needs to be done. To stand up and say, we don't need to have PowerPoint presentations about proper pronouns in the United States military. We don't need to be expelling people out of the United States military because they refuse to go along with an immoral, unethical, unlawful order, mandate to have a certain thing injected into their bodies, an experimental drug. That's what we're looking for. That's what the Guardian Fund has always sought after. I got asked a pretty interesting question just recently, and that question was, hey, Colonel, do you think that there should be a constitutional amendment that says that the President of the United States of America should have previously served in the military? At one point in time in the United States of America, if you have not served in the military, been willing to lay down your life for this country, people didn't take you too seriously running for president. And the most important title of the President of the United States of America is Commander-in-Chief. I would tend to believe that if we did have a president that had been in the military, maybe he had even served in Afghanistan, he would not have turned Afghanistan back over to the Taliban, because maybe that president had been on the ground and had fought against that enemy and seen how savage and brutal they were. Maybe if you had a president that had served in the military, he would not put our men and women in harm's way in an untenable position, securing an airfield in the middle of a major urban population center when you already had an air base that was in a remote location. As a matter of fact, 2 air bases, Kandahar and then also up in Bagram. Maybe if we had a commander-in-chief that had served in the military, they would not look down at their watch doing a casket ceremony when the bodies of 13 Marines, a sailor and a soldier, were being brought home on their final trip. So maybe we do. But the thing is that that's up to you all as the voters. If you continue to lower your standards so badly, then this is the government, this is the type of representation that we deserve. Let's start going out there and looking for these young men and women. Such as tonight, we've got United States Navy Captain Bill Irwin. We've got Joe Collins, former member of the United States Navy. Why we got all these Navy guys tonight? I don't know. We got some Army guys. Ed Thelander, United States Navy. And we're going to close out with General Don Bolduc, retired general of the United States Army. These are the type of people we need to start looking for in our communities, in our churches, all across this country. Men and women who understand words like faithful and true, steadfast and loyal, de oppresso liber. But most importantly, men and women who raised their right hand on one day, as I did on 31 July 1982, and said that they will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here. And as you know, we have gotten with David Stortz out of Wichita, Kansas, and we have designed and made this incredible Black Robe Regiment Tomahawk, where we are asking you to nominate pastors out there from all across the United States of America that you think embody the spirit of the Black Robe Regiment from the Revolutionary War. You can send your nominations to tomahawk@abwshow.com. Again, that's tomahawk@abwshow.com, because we're going to make this a very special thing, only 2 per month. We've already issued out our first recipients for the month of July. Pastor Dana Coverstone of Kentucky, Pastor Chris McCrae, my pastor at Sojourn Church, and then Pastor Doug Giles of Driftwood, Texas. And they were very excited to receive their tomahawks, and we're going to continue to do this. And as you can see again, Black Robe Regiment, 2 Timothy 4:2-5, the Lion of Judah is engraved in there. David Stortz did an incredible job. Then you have the Reverend Revolutionary War era with his Bible, and there you see your pastor's name will go. So please, tomahawk@abwshow.com to send in your nominations, 2 per month. And we're looking for those nominations for August. God bless you all, steadfast and loyal. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. And as promised, we're going to talk to some of these military conservatives that have, even though taken off the uniform, they still understand that they have an oath to support and defend the Constitution. And the first guest we're going to have tonight is United States Navy Captain Bill Irwin, who is a native of St. Louis, Missouri, or Missouri, whichever one, and attended the University of Missouri, earning his bachelor's degree in business administration 1979, followed by a master's degree in national security and strategic studies from the Naval War College in 2009, enlisting in the United States Navy in 1983, the same year I came on active duty as a hull maintenance technician. Captain Irwin served aboard the USS Incheon prior to volunteering for Naval Special Warfare SEAL training and attending basic underwater demolition SEAL training, graduating with Class 141. Captain Irwin served as SEAL Team 5 until December of 1989, when he affiliated with the Naval Reserves. And right now, Captain Irwin is married to the former Barbara Ellen Capps, has a son. Brian is a Bible-believing Christian, which is so important. Christian constitutional conservatives are what we're looking for. And he is a candidate for Missouri's 4th Congressional District. Captain Irwin, thanks for joining us. Anchors away, sir.
Hey, Colonel, thank you so much for having me on board. and not to poke anything, but that Army Navy College or Army Navy game last November.
Oh, here we go. Here we
Oh,
go.
you know we had to go there. I'm not going there. I'm going, what a fantastic time to have those men and women on the field together, the best America has to offer going after it.
Well,
It is
and that's why they call it America's game. And I'm so glad that they have put that on a Saturday when all other college football games are over so that everyone can see those young men that are out there on that field. They're contesting a football game for, some 60 minutes, 2 hours, 2 hours and a half. But at the end, they stand together as they sing the respective service songs. And of course, that's the only time when you want to sing last because that means you won the game. And you guys got us in this last iteration of the game because you shut us down in the second half. And no matter who wins, America, wins overall by producing these incredible young men and women.
They do. And, we have to stand behind our military. Our military, they need to be ready to go fight and win America's wars. The leadership we've had lately, I am so disappointed. To teach them things that are not essential for winning wars, that are going to save their lives, we need to fire some admirals and some generals that are woke type men and women. Mm-hmm. They got to be war fighters.
Let's talk about that because one of the things that I see happening is that we do have these senior military leaders and we also have this civilian leadership. And it hurts my heart when I look at the current Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, who was a colonel, a brigade commander at Fort Bragg when I was stationed there. And I looked up to the guy. His call sign was Panther 6 and he was the ultimate badass. But now I look at the fact that he's forgotten his oath to the Constitution and what it means to have a prepared military. So when you think about our current state of readiness, what do you see are some of the things that we need to have you and many others, military conservatives running for Congress, do upon arrival in Washington, D.C.?
We need to let the war fighters that want to fight American wars and train our soldiers and sailors and Marine and Coast Guard men and airmen that want to fight and win America's wars, we need to turn them loose and let them do that. And we weed out those that do not want to fight those fights. It's terrible that so many of our military personnel are getting into politics when they need to be war fighters. There's a politician I'm running against that it's amazing to see the flip-flopping when they were talking about the past president, President Trump, how Bratton would just come down and say, I don't support Trump at all. And he called him an egomaniac and he should never have his finger on the nuke trigger. But now he's like, oh, yeah, what a great president. Oh, yeah. It's like that's the kind of thing that we can't see in our military and our military leaders. They need to be firm, on point, and we need to back them in this training procedure.
One of the things that I'd like to get your thoughts and perspectives on is this whole vaccine mandate for the military that came down. And of course, we know that this announcement was made during the debacle in Afghanistan where we saw, I think that would be the greatest strategic, operational, and tactical blunder that we have ever seen in the history of the United States of America. And how could it be that we had senior level leaders that went along with that and did not put their stars, if you're active duty, did not put their stars on the table and walk away. But what are some of the things that you think or, members of the military that are serving in Congress could have done to bring out the failure of that policy in Afghanistan? And, of course, to stand up and protect our men and women in uniform right now who are being put out and their religious exemptions are not being honored.
Two threads I got to pull on that, sir. First is Scotty Miller is such an honorable man. He was over there and he sent the note that no, we need to not give up Bagram Airfield. That's and quite frankly, that was a knife right in the throat of the Chinese. And the State Department said a note saying, no, don't send the military out till we get all the civilians out. But the egomaniacs that is our current president, he betrayed his oath and killed 13 Americans in that debacle. It's just unacceptable the way he pulled rank and got things done. And Scotty Miller, he lost it. They pulled him out and put somebody else in that would follow what the president wanted to do. So Scotty's a tremendous man, and he got the wrong come up. But the vaccines, that's crazy. We have experience in there, 13, 14, 15-year veterans that have fought American wars, and now they don't want to get a shot, so they kick them out. That's waste, fraud, and abuse, if you ask me. And we're having a hard time getting people in, and they're making this mandate. It's like we're a rule of laws, or we're a country of laws, and a mandate from the guy that did the debacle in Afghanistan, that doesn't cut it in my book for kicking out our military veterans and personnel. That has to stop. And we can stop that if we get the right people in Congress.
Yeah, because what we saw was a suit that was filed by several members of your background, the Navy SEAL community, that said, hey, look, you know, we should not be forced to do this. We're not a threat to national security. As a matter of fact, we've seen more harm done to members of the military who have taken that shot. So when you think about that and the cultural Marxism that has crept in, and I want to get your thoughts and your reaction on that Navy video that they had, some training video about the use of proper pronouns.
That is just crazy. We talked about it earlier. I'm a Bible believer, and I'm also a science believer. The science says there are boys and girls. God created Adam and Eve, and getting your feelings hurt over the wrong pronoun is ridiculous. These boys and girls, these men and women who are going to fight for America, need to toughen up a little bit, and need Bud's Hell Day, I think.
Yeah. Now, when you talk about the power of the purse, which is something that the Congress has, how can you leverage the power of the purse against, the cultural Marxism, Ibrahim Kendi, and all of these others that have infiltrated into the Department of Defense? So that's something that you'd be willing to advocate for as a member of Congress, and especially if you sit on the Armed Services Committee?
Oh, most definitely. These bills that are being voted on, omnibus bills, we're strapping our country with debt we're never going to get ahead of. If we have to close down the government, then shut it down. I mean, anytime we shut it down, it seems like they never fail to go back and pay people that got time off their lost time. But the essential people, they still have to work. So if we have to shut down our money, our country for a little bit, let's send the money back to the taxpayers. And our government's too big anyways. We need to shrink the government because we're wasting too much money.
Well, you bring up a great point. I mean, we're not shutting down the country, is the federal government, but yet they declare certain people are essential. So if you're essential, then what about the non-essential people? Then why should they be there if you're determining that? And so when I look at these people who are bringing in this cultural Marxism into the United States military, I don't see them as being essential. So why is American taxpayer dollars going towards people that are promoting something that is not essential to the mission of the United States military?
You're spot on, sir. I cannot argue with your point.
Yeah. So, well, thank you. It's not often that a Navy captain, and everyone understand that a Navy captain is not the same as an Army captain. I should be calling him sir because a Navy captain is an 06, a full bird colonel, eagle on his lapels. I was just a light colonel. That's a commander in the Navy. So we want to make sure we get that right. He has rank, and he has data rank, and he has everything on me. So I will refer to you, Captain Irwin, as sir. Now let's flip the script a little bit. What inspired you to run for office?
Well, our politicians are failing us. And I've been in every continent of the world serving our country except for Antarctica. And I have a database, a wisdom, a knowledge. I've seen what it looks like. And America is still the greatest country in the world. But you know what? We're going to have to fight for it if we want to keep it that way. In the Navy, or from my background experience as yours, sir, I am a strategic planner in the United States Naval War College. I know how to put together a good plan. I'm a team builder. They call it SWAT teams, SEAL teams. I was a SWAT cop at Lee Summit, Missouri.
Yes.
And I can bring together the smartest, best people and get an answer and get a COA, get a course of action. And then both of us we're decisive executors. We know how to execute a plan. And that's what we're going to have to do if we want to save our country. We got to be planners, team builders, and executors of a plan.
Now, when you are out traveling your congressional district there in Missouri, what are the top three issues? What are the top three things that you're hearing from your constituents or your future constituents?
Well, first, it's fiscal conservative of our government. The idea that we're spending money on crack pipes for dopers, or we're giving cell phones to illegal aliens so we can track them, that's wasting our taxpayer dollars. The people in the 4th Congressional District are hardworking, Bible-believing Americans that just want the rules and regulations lifted a little so they can get ahead. They're not super rich, but they know how to farm and they know how to raise cattle, and they want to go after it. And that goes back to energy independence. If we can get, stop this stuff, drill, baby, drill, open the pipeline. It's basic supply and demand. We can fix this tomorrow. Let's get the oil going, because the inflation rate and the price of gasoline, it's killing our farmers and our cattle ranchers. It's hurting all Americans. And then finally, the third, secure the border. Are you kidding me? Yeah. You and I would both been to North and South Korea. Yep. They secured the border there. We could do that tomorrow. And you know what? If we use our reservists to secure their border on ATs, their active duty training, as part of their military training in the heat, we could secure that border for next to nothing when we put up that fence. It's too easy. Common sense.
Where can people follow you and learn more information about your campaign, Captain Irwin?
Thank you, sir. They can find me at irwinforcongress.com. And on that site, they'll find that I have 8 strategic principles. I call them overlapping fields of fire on what we need to do to save our country, because they're all important. And, we got to fight for even that unborn child. It's so critical.
Yes, we do. Well, I want to thank you so very much, Captain Irwin, for being on the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. And you are the epitome of what we talk about, a person that believes in service, selfless service and sacrifice and commitment to this great nation. You have done it in the United States Navy as the modern Spartan warrior, a United States Navy SEAL. You have done it in Lee Summit, Missouri, as a SWAT member and a police officer there. And now you're looking at continuing your service to go to Washington, D.C. So thank you very much, sir, and anchors away.
Thank you, Colonel West. Hoo-yah.
Hoo-yah, hoo-ah. Hey, welcome back, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. And again, we are joined here with another superb candidate who has served our country in uniform, and that is Ed Thelander, who is running in the state of Maine in Congressional District Number 1. Ed served 21 years as a United States Navy SEAL in SEAL Team 3, SEAL Team 4, SEAL Delivery Team 2. He was the sniper course manager for all of the SEAL teams. He was the operation chief at the United States Navy SEER schools in Wrangley. And he has been a volunteer firefighter, a reserve deputy sheriff, a private pilot, and a small business owner. One of Ed's causes is called Swim with a Mission, has raised millions of dollars for veterans projects. He also volunteers with a not-for-profit called Stepping Stone Housing and Veteran Camps, Camp Kiev and Waivas. And the reason why I know Ed so well is that during the time as chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, back during the 2020 election cycle, Ed volunteered to be part of a personnel security detachment to make sure that as we were going out, the team stayed safe. So I just want to thank you, Ed, for joining us here on the Steadfast and Lower podcast. How you doing? Anchors away, sailor.
Hey, thank you very much for having me on. This is fantastic. It's great to see you again.
Yep.
And hey, it's one more way of service.
Yep.
It's stepping forward one more time for a finite amount of time, and back to living again.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you believe in term limits, but that was the kind of the monologue that I had, that America needs more of its men and women who have served in uniform to step up and continue to serve and honor the oath that they took to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So what was, the real inspiration for you? Because this is a big step, and you and I had conversations about this. So what was that inspiration? And then, of course, what have been some of the lessons that you have learned in, going from being a modern-day Spartan SEAL warrior to now being a congressional candidate?
Well, first, the words that we talked about, and I congratulated you and commended you on your run and serving again. And I did say it to you. I'd rather be shot at than be in politics. And and I meant it. And now here I am. It's time to step up. I'm watching our kids. We've got one in high school still and two in college, and they don't know what they're missing, and they don't know. They're so crafty at them being the progressives at teaching them what's not right. We had to step forward. Liliana, my wife from Venezuela, has been here 28 years, came across legally, more matter about the border than anybody listening. And that's why we're doing this, because she knows what's coming, and she insisted that I do this. I was asked to do this. It's not something I would ever seek to do. It isn't. I've got an awesome life. I was about to get my commercial pilot's license. There's 8 million things I could be doing, but you know what? If I don't do this and we're not successful, we might not have any of those things to do.
Well, that's the honorable thing about you, Ed. It's the call to arms and the call to service once again. And you just talked about your wife, Liliana, and coming from Venezuela, that a country that used to be one of the most prosperous nations in the Western Hemisphere. And she has seen exactly what happened from the time that Hugo Chavez came in. And how funny it is that we're looking at Sri Lanka, who bought into the globalist Green New Deal policies, and the country has collapsed economically in just 2 years. And some of the indicators were, high gas prices, high food commodity prices, lack of the ability for people to find food. And here we are in the United States of America. So when we talk about these things, and you've traveled to so many different countries, what are some of the top priorities for you and, of course, for your constituents in Maine Congressional District 1 when you become the member representing them in Congress?
Really, first thing off the bat is take care of our children. We've got to secure them and make them right and happy in school. They don't know how they're being misled. The unions are telling teachers how to teach. The unions are insisting on teaching the Holocaust and Japanese internment camps in America at the same time, and kids don't know the difference. The union, and not the school board, the union would not let the teacher teach that how they got to the Holocaust. That's the important part. While they teach at the same time about Japanese internment camps here in America, they become one to the kids because they don't have that experience to determine that. So getting our kids taught right in school, the Department of Education needs to get cut back or go away, because our education in America has only gone downhill since, we had no Department of Education before Jimmy Carter, and we could do it again without him. Everything needs to get back to local. We don't need the federal government. And I'm running for a federal position, but I truly believe, I know that everything needs to get back to local. And the closer it is to where the kids are, the kids here in Bristol, Maine, they don't need to be taken care of or taught the same things the kids in San Francisco. That needs to get back to right. We need to get producing oil again in America. and that has to be sensible to do it. You can't, to get a refinery going now, it takes 20 years to make it profitable. And if Joe Biden's going to shut down power, make it all electric cars, in 10 or 15 years, that doesn't really make sense to start refining oil again. We've got, people don't know it because it's not talked about enough or at all. We have the Portland pipeline here, 600,000 barrel capacity a day. It got shut down 3 years ago because they flew somebody in, and I'm talking George Soros flew somebody in to shut it down. They made the person a resident, put him on the city council, and they shut down the Portland pipeline. I mean, the Keystone pipeline was only going to be able to do 680,000 barrels a day, and that was going to the Gulf of Mexico. This was going to the closest port in Europe. I mean, think of what that could do right now. There was normally we would ship oil up to Montreal to get refined, but it could be reversed and send oil down this way. But again, closest port to Europe, right here, shut down for pumping
Well,
oil.
you bring up a great point because you were talking about education, and we just saw the Supreme Court make a huge decision up there in Maine about education when it says that parents have the right to decide where their children are going to be going to school, and the kids don't have to be relegated to a public school, and the funding thereof should go with the kids. So how was that decision received up there in your community, in your congressional district?
You better believe there is resistance right now because we don't control the state house or senate either right now, or the governorship. So there is resistance to it, and I don't know that anybody's had success using it yet. It has to happen. If we don't make that happen and force it, there's so many things that are being decided that no action is being taken on right now. Everything with the election integrity that we know was wrong. We need accountability so we can actually make that happen, because it is not being received well by the progressives. And they're saying that you cannot get the money if you don't have an LGBTQ plus, et cetera, teacher staff or student acceptance. That's the reason why they have those private schools, religious schools, so they can have and teach the kids the way they want. You have to have people that believe in what you're teaching. And it is again, it is up to the parents where and how their kids are taught. And if they don't have that choice, then the money has to follow those students.
That's a great point. And Randy Weingartner, who is the head of the Teachers Union in the United States of America, came out today and said, we need to stop politicizing schools. Well, guess what? I mean, you and the teachers unions, you're the main ones doing so. And so let's shift and talk about another thing that's being politicized, I feel, in the United States of America, and that's our military. And when I look at, what just recently happened with the Navy and this training video about the proper use of pronouns, and of course the Navy SEALs who had to go and, they had to be defended in court for their ability to refuse the shot in the arm. What are some of the things that would be your focus as Congressman Ed Thelander, Maine Congressional District 1, member of the House Armed Services Committee?
Hey, the military is not a social experiment. That's first and foremost. We don't need to talk about pronouns and things. It's sir, ma'am, sergeant, sailor. We're good. Let the people get ready for battle. Let them get ready to take care of people in times of need. But that is not our focus. Is gender anything? It doesn't have its place there. The shot. Holy smokes! You're talking about some awesome, great shaped folks in the SEAL teams that are forced to get out because they were mandated to get a shot they didn't need. Folks are not doing well because of that shot that are, they get the myocarditis. They had one, not SEAL, but student in SEAL training die. Healthy individual. It was post-Hell Week, and another go to the hospital. And hey, they didn't need the shot. No one's saying what it was that caused it. They're not letting it out. Well, they're not letting out a whole lot of things about that shot.
Mm-hmm.
It is that it's not good for young men to take it, and why don't we take a step back and look at it? Folks are getting forced out now that have been through combat, and that transition is not easy. And now you're going to take away their benefits and just kick them out immediately.
And with a dishonorable discharge in some cases, correct?
Correct. Dishonorable discharge or other than honorable, after they've served so hard, deny them their, the PTSD treatment that they probably need, the knees, the backs, the necks that are just, trash from years of service. Now you're going to deny the help that they earned because they want to take care of themselves. It doesn't make sense. So many things are going on right now that absolutely do not make sense that we've got to get right.
So, as a member of Congress, would you support legislation that would reinstate these members of the military that were put out at their rank and back pay? Would you support that legislation?
100%. And there's got to be a little more payback than that too, because there's some the idea that you've been betrayed by what you've served so well, hard and risked your life. There's some people need to pay for what they've done, and that we need accountability. And why aren't they looking at it? Why aren't they looking at the simplest things? Everything from the TRICARE records that are showing that people are increased levels of everything. We need to just stop and take a look at it. COVID, yeah, it's going to be here forever now, but it's not all that anymore, and I don't believe it ever really was. It was bad. I had it. I didn't like it. I don't recommend it. Yeah. But hey, I'm good now, and hope I don't get it again. I probably won't because I had it, and I'm not vaccinated. Vaccinated folks are getting it, and
look at Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, hey. 2-time. Hey, matter of fact, my opponent just got it, and she said you won't be seeing me much out anymore. Well, we never saw her anyways, but it's okay.
Last question, and if you're sitting there in the Armed Services Committee and you have the Chief of Naval Operations and the Secretary of the Navy before you, what question would you ask them?
Why are we making our military an experiment, and why aren't we focusing solely on getting ready for war and defending this country? It's a simple question. Why would we concentrate on these other things of social engineering and not taking care of our people?
Yeah, I find it insidious.
Yeah,
I find it insidious that this cultural Marxism has crept into the United States military, and it is saying that you, Ed Thelander, because of your skin pigmentation, you're an oppressor, and me, because of my skin pigmentation, I'm oppressed. And how can you build a cohesive fighting force if you're pitting members of the military against each other?
Hey, I taught it. At SEER School, we actually taught how to defend against what they're doing to us right now. It's, in the Korean War, there were 14 Americans that did not want to return from captivity in North Korea because they were taught that America bad. And so in the SEER training, which is there's a captivity phase to it, prisoner of war, and we pit them each other with race, with gender, with rank, economic background. You find something, a difference in them, and we would introduce it, split them, and try and get them to fight, against each other. And they were taught to resist that. Now they're doing it to us, and I don't know how many different ways. Yeah. I mean, fighting another, we have to go respect that and take a time out for that. Literally, I taught it on a military scale exactly how to resist what is happening right now, and that is why it's so appalling to me.
Yeah, amazing. So, Ed, where can people follow you and your campaign? What's your website for everyone out there? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that would love to support my dear friend Ed Thelander, United States Navy SEAL.
Yeah, ThelanderForCongress.com. It's TheLander for Congress.com, all spelled out.
Well, I appreciate you. And when I think about, you know, we establishing the Guardian Fund a decade ago, you're the reason
Yeah.
why. So go out there and get them, okay?
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and thank you very much for having me on. Truly, you were and will always
Well,
be an inspiration for me.
well, you're very
Thank you
kind.
very much.
Hoo-yah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Take care, Ed. Greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here. Welcome back to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. And as promised, I have Joe E. Collins III, who is running for U.S. House of Representatives in California, District 36. Joe is a 13-and-a-half-year veteran of the United States Navy, a licensed financial professional. He has a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Phoenix in accounting, and he is the former host of KABC radio show, The New Black Republican. He is a veteran, of course, a business owner. He believes in freedom, and he is pro-Second Amendment. Joe, welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. Anchors Away.
Thank you for having me, Mr. West.
Yeah, pleasure. Tell everyone a little bit about you and what inspired you to run for Congress, because, I believe we need more military and minority conservatives up there in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Well, my name is Joe Collins. I'm from South Central Los Angeles. Served in the U.S. Navy for 13 and a half years. What inspired me really to run for Congress was honestly Donald Trump. Both good and bad. I saw how the media would treat him unfairly. I go back and watch it, and the whole entire videos for myself, and I saw how Donald Trump wanted to fight for things that he saw were issues. And I want to do the same thing. Being from South Central Los Angeles, we've had a plethora of poor representation. And I think we need blue leaders, not just in California, but across the United States and definitely in our White House right now.
Who is the current occupant of Congressional District 36? Who is the current representative?
I believe it's Ted Lieu.
Okay. And so when you look at him, and I've seen videos of him and several things, where do you think that he is deficient in being a representative? And do you really think that he is doing what is good and strong for our military and our national security?
Just like a lot of politicians, when it comes to Ted Lieu, I think that he looks out for himself more than he looks out for everybody else. One thing that a lot of people forget is that when you go to Congress, when you sit in a legislative position, your obligation is to represent the people who live in your district. And right now, I don't think the majority of Americans are being represented in a manner that's best for them.
Now, what are the critical issues when you get out and about in California's Congressional District 36? What are the top three issues that you're hearing from your potential constituents?
Well, the top three is crime is definitely number one. It would be homelessness, and then the cost of living that keeps going up.
So what are some of the things, is it the gas, the commodity prices? What are, because I've seen some pictures of $9 gas in California. What's the gas prices there in your congressional district?
Gas price is about $6.50, and that's just for regular. And that's the cheap gas. That's like Arco.
Yeah.
Never mind the Shell gas stations and the Chevrons where the gas is like $7, $8. But this inflation that we're having right now is taking a toll on every single industry that we have in America. And Californians are feeling the brunt of this. The gas is high, food is high, the cost of living, rent is steadily increasing. Everything is up right now. And I got to think about those families who were barely making it when gas was $2. Now gas is $6, $7, $8, $9. What are they doing right now? Homelessness is skyrocketing, and some of these people are living in their cars and going to work. So we're in a situation right now. This is a pandemic of ignorant, failed leadership, and we have to be able to solve that by voting in young people like myself across the United States so we can fix these problems.
Well, I found it really hilarious that the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, is running ads in the state of Florida saying that people should move to California to enjoy more freedom. What's your thoughts on that?
You probably meant the freedom to be robbed or the freedom to live in poverty. I don't think Gavin Newsom has been throughout the state of California in a very long time. And, I had a lot of friends talk to me. They called me and asked me, is Gavin Newsom serious? Are people really taking this guy serious with the ads in Florida? And I was like, we don't even take him serious here in California. However, we're gonna have to have strong leadership in order to beat a guy like that. And the reason why I say that is because we cannot continue to allow people who vote for Democrats to continue to be sympathetic when Democrats fail on a consistent basis. We have to point out those flaws and tell everybody why we're the better person or the better candidate for that job.
Now, when you started out and said that the crime and the lawlessness was a big issue, you just saw where the petitions came in to recall the district attorney out there, District Attorney Gascon. Uh, does he have a favorable, opinion in your congressional district, or are people willing to say that this guy needs to go away?
A lot of people really don't like Gascon. I mean, we could see by the 700,000 plus signatures that were turned in. Um, One of the biggest reasons why I never got on board with the Gascon recall is because he was elected by liberals and people who vote for Democrats. And I think that sometimes we, as Republicans, we act too fast to save everybody or to do the right thing. We should have let those people experience this DA and his abuse of his policies or lack thereof, so they can see like this is what Democrats are doing to you on a regular basis. If you don't like the criminals coming back to the city or not getting charged for their crimes, then you need to vote Republican. So, but people don't like them, and they did what was necessary in order to recall them.
Yeah, because look at the example that was set up there in San Francisco with the district attorney there. No, they're not going to elect a Republican district attorney in
Hmm.
San Francisco, but at least they made a decision that this guy is the wrong guy, and hopefully they'll try to rectify that situation as well up in New York City with Alvin Bragg. Let's switch over now and let's talk about your service to the nation. You spent 13 and a half years in the Navy. What inspired you to want to become a sailor in the United States Armed Forces?
um, well, I graduated high school and I didn't have any intentions on going to college. And when a recruiter walked into Walmart and she was extremely pretty, she gave me her number and then she asked me the next day if I wanted to have lunch with her. And then next thing I know, they were offering me a job.
She lured
My
you
love for
in.
this, that's how they do it. That's how the recruiters get you. But my love for this country grew as I understood the mission of the military, as I
Yeah.
traveled around the country, as I traveled around the world. I started to grow really fond of this country and my love for this country and the people of this country. And that's why I kept reenlisting.
Now, did you do some ship deployments while you were in the Navy?
Unfortunately, not. I was put on a combat team and ended up boots on the ground in Iraq.
Well, nothing wrong with that. I mean, I spent a little time chewing that dirt as well. What part of Iraq were you in?
So we were based out of Al Air Force Base, and
Sure.
then our patrol area was really big for the mission that we were doing. We were doing a lot of reconnaissance.
Okay, very well.
Hmm.
Now, when you look at today's Navy, and I don't know if you've seen this video, but it was the video, a training video about how to use proper pronouns in the United States Navy. Are you concerned about this woke military that today is struggling to meet their recruitment goals?
Yeah, I think I have a lot of concerns, not just with this the woke movement or LGBTQ movement moving into the military. I have a lot of concerns about the leadership in the military. How they're folding to liberals and people who have never served in the military, and what they're doing right now. The thing that bugs me the most about it is that they're moving away from the object and the mission of the military. They're moving towards more of a socialized culture in the military, and that's not what the military was for. I was a sexual assault and rape victim advocate throughout my tenure in the military, and I've seen a lot of people commit suicide simply because they couldn't fit into the military with the LGBTQ lifestyle. When they repealed "Don't Ask, Don't Tell," suicide rates went up because now you have people in the military who don't really care about what you think your gender is, your what your sexuality is, like who you love. People in the military don't care. It's always mission first, and even on a broader sense, that type of behavior is supposed to be at home. It's not supposed to be displayed in the workplace, in any workplace, especially in the military. The vaccines, that was a huge concern because it was experimental, and I think that people in the military should have had a choice whether they want to take it or not. But we have a lot of weak leaders in the military, and hopefully. In this midterm election, we can get some of these guys out of office, so we can get people in office who have served this country, who know the culture of our military, the culture of our overseas business, and we can put forward some policy that's going to protect our service members and improve our interests around the world.
Would you support legislation that would return or restore members of the military that have been kicked out for refusing to take that shot and bring them back at their rank when they were put out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's most necessary. Some people join the military and they predicate their whole entire lives around military service, plan a retirement around military service, and to kick them out over an experimental vaccine was ridiculous. That was a failed leadership.
Now, when you talk about, our military readiness and national security, what do you think? Because I remember, I came in, I'm a little bit older than you, 61, but I remember the 600 ship Navy of Ronald Reagan. But today, that Navy is less than, if I'm correct, about 285 ships. What can you do to be an advocate be a voice to make sure that we once again build back up our maritime strength? Because I get concerned when I see the fact that China has brought out its third aircraft carrier here basically in the last 10 to 15 years. And that shows that they realize that to expand their dominance, they're going to do it through expanding their maritime forces. What are some of the things that you think are important to restore our United States Navy and the United States Marine Corps, that maritime service?
Well, I think that uh, when you improve technology, things change, and I think that's why we reduced the number of ships that we have in the fleet.
I
However,
like more. I
military
like more stuff, though.
more stuff is always good.
Yeah,
Power projection is what the goal of the
absolutely.
military was, especially the Navy. And so we got to have those ships, and we got to have those service members who are willing to go on board those ships, take the planes overseas, and do what's necessary to project power, protect our allies, and secure American interests across the globe. And it just comes with having people in our Congress, in our state legislative positions who agree with that mission and won't do anything to decrease military readiness. It sounds great to decrease military readiness until you have a country like Russia or China knocking at your door, ready to blow our bays off.
No, you're absolutely right about that. Now, when you out there and you are campaigning, what is the biggest delineation? What is the biggest thing that you say in a comparative analysis between Ted Lieu and myself? What's the most glaring difference?
I'm black.
Well,
No,
okay, I
just
got that. He doesn't have
as
a
a
great
joke.
tan.
I'll tell you this. I've never brought up Ted Lieu in any conversations that I've had with people in the district. And the reason why is because, I ran against Maxine Waters last election cycle because that's the district that I was in. We redistrict, and people know who I am and they know what I want to bring to the table. And we also live in California. It's been ran by Democrats for a very long time. And so people are just purely disgusted by Democrats, and I don't want them vomiting on me. I want to listen to what people have to say. I want to listen to the issues because I want to be able to take their voice to Congress when I get there. I want to let them know you're going to be heard, and we're going to work together to solve these issues, regardless of your political party preference. So I spend a lot of time listening, to be honest.
Well, I will tell you one of the most important pieces of advice I give to candidates is that you should go out there and talk about what you're for, not so much about what you're against, as you draw
Hmm.
that comparison, comparative analysis between your opponent. Where can people follow you and learn more about your campaign?
Yep, you can go to my website, joecollins4congress.com. It's all spelled out. And you can find me on all social media platforms at Joe E. Collins and the number three.
What do you think is your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge is trying to talk to as many Democrats as possible. We have
Mhm.
752,000 people that live in the district, and I need to get a hold of at least half of them so we can win this race. But it's definitely winnable.
Well, I appreciate you, your service to the nation in the United States Navy, and now your continuing service to the nation as I hope to be the next member of Congress from California's District 36. Joe Collins III, thank you so much for joining us here at the Steadfast and Loyal podcast.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
God bless and God be with you. Anchors away, sailor. Hey, welcome back to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. And now we have one of the great United States Army heroes from the global war on terrorism and operations in Afghanistan, and that is General Don Bolduc. General Don Bolduc spent 33 years in the United States Army. He joined the military as a private in 1981. He served 10 tours of duty in Afghanistan, commanded the United States Special Operations Africa, and worked at the Pentagon with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Office of the Secretary of Defense, and on the Army staff. During his 33 years of service in the Army, General Bolduc was awarded 2 awards for valor, 2 Purple Hearts, and 5 Bronze Stars. General Bolduc led one of the first groups into Afghanistan following 9/11, and he led a group that would overthrow the Taliban and place Hamid Karzai in power early in the war. General Bolduc would eventually lead a unit of special operators responsible for the victory of Operation Medusa, uprooting the Taliban in Kandahar province. General Bolduc is now the Republican candidate running for the United States Senate in New Hampshire. Airborne, sir, great to have you with us.
Well, all the way. And thank you, sir, very much. And thank you for your service as well, both to our nation and our military and in Congress. Thank you very much.
Well, that's the theme of tonight is, 10 years ago when I came into the Congress, I saw that so many people did not understand how they could go out and reach out to former members of the United States military and recruit them to run for Congress. And that's why we started the Guardian PAC, which is celebrating that 10th anniversary. And I'm glad to see that the Guardian PAC is supporting you. So what was your inspiration to do, as I want to see more former members of the military do, take off the uniform, put on a suit and tie or the dress suit, and run for political office, local level all the way up to federal level? What was your inspiration?
Well, thank you for that question. It's a great question because when I retired in 2017, my wife and I came back to New Hampshire, where I was born and raised, where she was raised. She was born in Massachusetts, raised in New Hampshire. We came back to our family, and our number one priority was to work with veterans and their families. We saw that post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, and related physical injuries and those things that result in our service members committing suicide was pretty problematic, not only here in New Hampshire, but throughout New England and across the country. So we got involved in that. We volunteered to sit on a number of boards across the nation, and that's what we did. And that was really our passion. And then as I started traveling around and getting to know everybody, people were like, you should really consider maybe running for office. And I started hearing that from a number of different Granite Staters and even people outside of the Granite State. So my wife and I thought about it, and then we saw just the direction this country was going in, inconsistent with our values and principles and our Declaration of Independence, and inconsistent with the oath that both of us took because we're both veterans. And we were very concerned about the future of our children and our grandchildren, which we have 3. And it was like, okay, what can we do? Where can we do it? How can we do it? And we got involved with the grassroots, campaign organization here in New Hampshire. And from there, it just, it just took off. And so we find ourselves wanting to serve our country in a different way, but no less important way because of really the direction this country is heading in economically, fiscally, and the safety and security of Americans at home and abroad is very much in peril. And this really concerns both of us and all the people that were around. And so that's the inspiration for me running. And I think it's really about service. It's about getting quality leadership down there in Washington, D.C., and rededicating ourselves to our nation's values and principles.
No, you're absolutely right. And when I think about the motto of New Hampshire, live free or die, we have confused this thing called freedom with believing that we just give people things for free. And, I live down here in Texas, and what we see happening with our border wide open, I just recently made the comment that when you talk about 800,000 estimated gotaways, that is greater than the end strength right now of our active duty Army and Marine Corps. 800,000 single military age males have come across the border. We don't know where they are. That's an invasion. So when you look at that, how do we make sure that we have the policies that protect our freedom, protect our borders, and what are some of the preeminent issues that you would stand up and fight for? You know, the top three.
Well, I mean, the top three. Well, first of all, the security of our homeland is number one, and of course, you just highlighted how much in peril that is. Not only and I would add to the 800,000 gotaways with the opioid crisis, the human trafficking crisis, the illicit weapons crisis, the high crime that's starting, the bankrupting of our communities by putting 3.1 million illegal aliens into our communities and allowing that burden to fall on our communities. And it really upsets our communities. It takes education opportunities, housing opportunities, other opportunities away from Americans. And we have to be in the business of putting America first here at home. And that goes with our economy, high inflation due to energy dependence. We have to reverse the policies on that. And we have to resource our CBP to the extent by air, land, and sea, and a wall system that actually allows them to be able to do what they're being asked to do, because they're not being resourced properly, and our policies are just absolutely broken. And we are investing in illegal immigration and not in legal immigration. And until we get those three areas fixed, our economy, out of control spending, and the security of Americans at home, this country is going to continue to go in the wrong direction. That must be changed, and that's going to be my focus.
I appreciate that. And when I look at your, combat service record, 10 tours of duty in Afghanistan with the Army, Special Forces, Operation Detachment Alpha, A teams, what was your feeling when you saw that strategic, operational, and tactical debacle that happened in Afghanistan?
Well, I tell you, I had a terrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. I knew something bad was going to come. I started reaching out to as many people as I could, saying, hey, listen, we got to make sure we have the right kind of plan here. I started hearing immediately from people that I had worked with many years in Afghanistan, from the people that ran the barbershop, ran the, for us, helped us on our fire bases, did all kinds of work for us, people that we guaranteed safety to. And I tell you what, it ripped my gut apart. And watching that C-17 take off and people hanging on it, I got to tell you, that was bad. And then as things continued to deteriorate and bad decisions made by the president, the National Security Council, and the Secretary of State, and the ambassadors over there, and the Department of Defense, and the Defense Secretary, and Milley, and the service chiefs, all the way down to the two-star level on the ground, not standing up for their people and saying, hey, we can't do this mission with the resources that you've given us. We got to protect our people. This is the only way to do it. CENTCOM commander was allowed to retire. Nobody has been held accountable. So who gets held accountable? Stu Scheller gets held accountable, right? Speaking out rightfully about the leadership and taking them to task. The absolute lack of accountability, responsibility, and transparency has really undermined America's foreign policy. It's put us in a bad way with China and what they're doing in Asia, Russia, what they did in the Ukraine. Again, we watched things until it was too late. And then what? Iran destabilizing the Middle East, threatening one of our most valuable partners, Israel, and then North Korea experimenting with rockets more than they've ever done in their entire history. We got a lot of problems, and it has to do with American weakness, and that's why my agenda is American strength, and that's regaining the strength in all of our institutions by committing ourselves back to our constitutional republic and our values and principles embodied in the Declaration of Independence.
Well, Ronald Reagan said it very succinctly: peace through strength. I mean, if you have that credible deterrent force out there, you don't see the challenges that we have. So I got to ask you the tough question: what has happened with our senior military leadership in our armed forces? When I look at this cultural Marxism that has infiltrated into our military, that would pit you and I against each other as oppressor and oppressed, you can't build a cohesive fighting force. What has happened with all of this wokeness, this pronoun usage, and all of these things? Where did this get off track with our senior military leaders?
Well, I think it's been a long time coming, 50, 60 years of undermining God, removing God from the public square, undermining our religious institution, undermining our educational institution, our family institution, our political institution, our economic institution, and now the military institution. And I think back, sir, and I look at kind of the purge that I saw and kind of the decisions I saw on who was getting promoted to general, who was not getting promoted to general or admiral, who was being released early, 1-star, maybe 2-star, and some of the decisions that were being made. And I can tell you that we let some good people go that would have stood up against this, that would have said, nope, I'm not in. I'm in this for my oath. I'm in this for my organization. I'm in this for my people. I am not going to allow this type of politics to undermine a military that you and I, sir, spent a lot of our time regaining America's confidence in our military. And we left the military with a strong legacy. And now, in short order, these political admirals and generals who've been allowed to serve, who continue to serve, undermine our country, undermine our military. Pronoun training, CRT training, creating divisiveness within the ranks, making stuff up where issues don't even exist, introducing a transgender narrative that's very, very disruptive in the military, rainbow bullets at the expense of taxpayers, stand downs for pronoun training, forcing our service members to get vaccine when there's no operational requirement and getting rid of them, and then threatening them and their family's livelihood, in their future livelihood by characterizing their discharge as something other than honorable. This is unbelievable and unprecedented. Meanwhile, let's let our strategic Navy, strategic Air Force, our logistics capability, our military capability to protect Americans from enemies, foreign and domestic, all deteriorate, right? And not do anything about China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran, who are expanding and doing things that will undermine this great nation in our success, and more importantly, the future of our children. Recruiting's down, retention's down. I mean, it's terrible, sir. And we need somebody in the United States Senate that worked for these guys, that knows these guys, that asked them hard questions they didn't like, asking them the hard questions they're not going to like from the perch of the Senate Armed Services Committee.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think the critical thing that a lot of people watching this podcast needs to understand is that the last promotion where you go up in front of a board of your peers is your level, the 1-star level, Brigadier General, Rear Admiral in the Navy. After that, it's all political appointments, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star. And you hit the nail on the head when you talked about in the Obama administration. That's when we saw that purge and people getting pushed out. And unfortunately, that was one of the things that President Trump did not do, was to right that ship with the senior military leadership. And now we see, the dividends, the bad dividends that is paying. So last question. If you're sitting there on the Senate Armed Services Committee, because you're going to be the next senator from New Hampshire, so you're sitting there on the Senate Armed Services Committee, and you have the Secretary of the Army and the Chief of Staff of the Army sitting there before you, what's the question you would ask them?
Well, the first question I want to ask him is how the Army is going to make right the damage they did to our service members who did not get the vaccine, and how we're going to offer them either to come back in the service, make it right, recharacterize their discharge
Yeah.
if it needs to be recharacterized to honorable, and if people want to come back, how they're going to, give them the promotions that they missed. We owe it. Number one, if we're going to improve our recruitment and we're going to improve our retention, we have to make this one step where we take this egregious wrong, where we take this wrong that got people out with the vaccine, and make that right. And then it's on to no more of this, this CRT, all this other stuff is crippling our military. And we got to do something about that immediately. And then lastly, what's your plan to rebuild our military so that it can actually fight and win our nation's wars? Because right now, sir, we haven't won anything.
Yeah.
We haven't won a thing. And when I challenged the Obama administration for changing strategy in 13 and 14, my guys on the ground told them what would happen, and everything that we told them happened, and Rand study backed that up. They did it anyways. And then I was told, hey, your future as a general isn't going to be very long if you keep questioning strategy and policy. Well, I did it there. I did it for Iraq. I did it for Syria. I did it for Africa. And more importantly, the nail in my coffin was, hey, I did not like what we were doing to our service members and not treating them properly for their mental injuries, physical injuries, and spiritual injuries. And I went up against the Department of Defense's approach, and they didn't like that. And I got my phone call, right? And that's okay with me, because that's what we are supposed to do as general officers and admirals. We're supposed to take care of our people. And right now, they're only taking care of themselves. They circle the wagons when anything goes wrong. They protect themselves. They protect the ones they want to protect. And then they cut loose on the lower ranking guys. And that is unfortunate. And George Catlett Marshall is rolling around in his grave right now at what senior leaders are doing to our military and how they're doing it. And this isn't about bucking civilian control of the military. This is doing the right thing for your service members, because we owe it to our sons and daughters and their families not to put them in harm's way with bad policy and strategy.
You're absolutely right, sir, and that's why you will be that next senator, and I support you wholeheartedly. So where can other people across the United States of America support you in your run to be the next senator of New Hampshire?
Well, go to my website, www.donbolduc.com. Everything is right there. Any help you can give me would be greatly appreciated. We're all in a tough time now, but we have to make a change, and it's hugely important. And we have to get veterans back in Congress like we had back in 1973, when 73% of Congress were veterans, and we focused on the important things of the economy, spending, and safety and security of Americans and our future. We got to get back to that. Veterans have a special sense of service and commitment and purpose and duty, and they've taken the oath before, they'll take it again, and veterans will give their lives for it. That's how important it is to them. That's how important this country is. So your efforts are greatly appreciated, sir, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for you and everything that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, General Bolduc. And the motto of the United States Special Forces is De Oppresso Liber, to liberate the oppressed. And we've got some people here in America that are oppressed under this progressive socialism, and I know you're going to liberate us. So God bless you, and thank you, sir, and good luck.
God bless you, too, and thank you, sir.
Hooah, sir. Airborne.
Airborne, all the way.
Hooah. All right, have a great evening.
You do the same. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. Again, if you like this podcast, please share it with others and hit that like button, because the whole purpose here is to better inform, better educate, and better activate you. And tonight's theme was a theme that I think is so important for the United States of America, to get more men and women who have served, sacrificed, and committed to this nation on the harsh battlefields and deployments all over this world, to stand up once again on freedom's ramparts and protect our rights, our freedoms, our liberties here in the United States of America. You heard Gerald Bolduc talk about the thing that I mentioned during my monologue, that back in just 1973, some over 70% of the members of the United States Congress had served in military uniform. That's what we have to restore. Because I think that when you have people who have been willing to make the last full measure of devotion for the longest running constitutional republic that the world has ever known, they will look at issues not through the lens of their own self-interest or special interests. They will look through the lens of the American interests, because they want to make sure that they honor the service and sacrifice and commitments of their brothers and sisters who are no longer here, or who have lost limbs or will be permanently wounded because of what they did to defend this nation. But those decisions come down to us. And so I will ask you to go out and look and study and see if you do have a veteran that is running in your locality, your municipality, in your state, or at the federal government level. Study them and test them. Go out and try to ask them the hard questions. Go out and meet them. And if they meet that criteria, then support them. Because right now, the greatest nation that the world has ever known is under assault within its borders. There are some people that don't believe we should have borders. Thank you so much to the men and women who are stepping up to run for political office. The soldiers, the sailors, the airmen, Marines, the Coast Guardsmen, who are saying to us in the United States of America, my service to this nation is not over, and I will continue to stand on the ramparts and be a guardian of this republic. God bless you all. Thanks to our staff here at the Steadfast and Loyal Podcast, executive producer Lisa, producer Chad, and all the others, and especially CW3, Ryan Weaver, United States Army Aviation, and his family for their service to this great nation. God bless you all, and good night.
Before they burn it down.